They say a man knows when it's the right time. For me, it was 8:47 a.m., Station 11, Gear Bay, with grease under my nails and soot still clinging to my turnout pants. My name's Lieutenant James Calder, Urban Rescue High-Rise Specialist, 12-year vet and idiot in love. I dropped to one knee right between the ladder truck and engine 5. Maria gasped. I remember that, the way her hand flew to her mouth like in those cheesy rom-coms she made me suffer through. I didn't even finish the speech. Didn't have to. She said yes before I asked the question. Then the tones dropped. Dispatch to Station 11. Confirmed structural fire, high-rise residential, multiple entrapments. I kissed her hard. She laughed against my lips, breathless. You better come back, she whispered. I always do, I said, the kind of line you only say when you think fate owes you a good ending. Then I ran. Harness on. Axe in hand. Into the smoke, into the blaze, into the jaws of a dying building. Floor 27 was already a furnace. My team split, standard protocol. I found a mother and toddler huddled in a bathroom, breathing through soaked towels. I calmed the mother. Wrapped the kid in my jacket. Carried them down 5 flights before the ceiling cracked. Then came the sound no firefighter ever forgets. A groan. A snap. A thunderous shift. The floor dropped from under me. I slammed into steel. Pain flared up my spine like someone poured fire straight into my vertebrae. I tasted blood. My radio was dead. My mask cracked. The oxygen hissed out. I couldn't move my legs. But I was alive. Buried. Trapped. But alive. I thought of her. Maria. Her face, her voice, the softness in her hands. I thought of her saying yes. I thought of the wedding. Of the future we were supposed to have. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of not seeing her again. I don't know how long I was out. Hours, maybe. I remember flashes. Steel beams, smoke light, the sound of boots, rubble being moved. Then hands. They pulled me out. A floodlight blinded me. A helmet blocked the sky. You got him. Calder's alive. The cheers were muffled in my ears. I passed out. The last thing I saw before I blacked out completely was a camera lens. Not just any lens news. They were filming. And I had no idea what the world saw while I was fighting for my life beneath concrete and ash. I woke up 2 days later to the smell of antiseptic, burnt fabric, and morphine. The first face I saw wasn't Maria's. It was Dr. Singh's, a trauma surgeon with bags under his eyes and a clipboard clenched tighter than a rescue rope. Lieutenant Calder, he said, welcome back. You're a damn miracle. I didn't feel like one. 3 fractured ribs. Dislocated shoulder. Bruised lung. A concussion that turned time into soup. But I was alive. Somehow. Anyone else from the team? I rasped. You pulled 2 civilians out, he said. Everyone else made it. You were the only one trapped. Good. That mattered. That always mattered. I waited for her. The door stayed closed. Day 3, Chief Montrose walked in with a grin too wide. Behind him, a film crew. You're the story of the year, Calder, he boomed. Rescued after 72 hours. You've been all over the news. He turned toward the cameraman. Cut to commercial. Let him rest. Then he handed me a tablet. You should see this. It's been viral. I tapped play. The footage was shaky, taken from the news station's aerial coverage. My name flashed in the cheerin'. Fallen firefighter, Lieutenant James Calder presumed dead in collapse. Then came a cut. Maria. She was crying on the steps of the firehouse. A reporter shoved a mic into her face. Any words for James? She stammered. He was brave. He always put others first. I smiled. Even through pain, her voice steadied me. That was my girl. Then he appeared. Ethan. Rookie. 2 years in. Fresh out of training. I trained him myself. He wrapped an arm around Maria like it belonged there. And she didn't push him away. She leaned in. Their lips met, slow, intimate, mournful. The camera didn't cut. It zoomed in. Live. Lieutenant Calder's fiancée finds comfort with fellow firefighter. I couldn't breathe. Not from the lung. Not from the pain. From betrayal. From that. The next day, a nurse slipped in while changing my 4. Just so you know, she muttered, eyes on the drip, you deserved better. What? I croaked. She never showed up. Not once. Been 3 days. Guess Ethan was enough. The door shut behind her before I could even reply. I stared at the ceiling. The painkillers dulled my ribs but not my rage. I replayed the video in my mind, her tears, his hand on her waist, that kiss. That kiss happened while I was buried alive. They mourned me together before I even had a chance to come back. Maria finally texted on day 5. Maria, I didn't know how to say this. Can we talk when you're better? I didn't answer. Not yet. I wasn't healed enough to keep from screaming. But one thing was already clear. She thought I was gone. She didn't just move on, she made it public. And Ethan? Ethan had taken more than my locker. More than my crew. More than the rank I mentored him for. He took her. But I wasn't dead. And I wasn't done. They buried me in rubble. Now it was my turn to dig through their lies. 3 more days passed. No visitors. No flowers. Not even a card. The nurse brought me a stack of get-well letters from strangers. A second grader drew me with a cape. But not a word from Maria. Not until a hospital intern wheeled in a laptop and said, "You want to see what everyone's talking about?" I should have said no. I clicked on the headline. Love, Loss, and Loyalty. Inside the story of Lieutenant James Calder's final hours. Final. Like I had died. Like I was past tense. The screen faded in on Maria, dressed in black, wiping perfectly placed tears. Reporters swarmed her like vultures. Behind her, the firehouse bay doors were wide open, as if mourning too. "I just keep thinking about our last conversation," she said. Her voice cracked on cue. He said, "I always come back." And now, another voice cut in. "You've been seen with a fellow firefighter. Some say it's too soon. What would you say to them?" Maria blinked, then glanced at someone off-screen. It was Ethan. He stepped forward, wearing my department hoodie, his arm grazing hers. "I've just been trying to support her," he said low and rehearsed. "It's been hard on all of us." Then, on live TV, Maria looked at him with that soft, shattered look I knew too well. She nodded. And she kissed him. No hesitation. No guilt. Just lips pressed like a stamp on my grave. The headline shifted again. From grief to comfort, love blooms in Firehouse 11. I slammed the laptop shut. That night, the nurse said the rookie had been promoted to lieutenant out of merit. That he was stepping in as acting team lead. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom without help, and Ethan was wearing my badge. The weight of that betrayal settled in my chest like smoke. Acrid. Unbreathable. I didn't need answers anymore. I needed justice. A week later, Maria finally came. She entered my hospital room like she was visiting a grave. Black coat, pale lips, eyes rehearsed for pity. "James?" I didn't speak. Just watched. She sat at the edge of the bed. Not close. Not far. Like I was radioactive. "I didn't know if you'd make it." I thought. "You thought it was okay to kiss him?" Her eyes flared. "That's not fair." I was grieving. "When did it happen, Maria?" I asked flat. "Was it before or after they pulled me out?" She froze. I repeated it slower this time. "When did you kiss him?" "I didn't check the damn time, James," she snapped, standing now. "You have no idea what I was going through." "I do. I was under 80 tons of rubble thinking of you. Not him." Silence. The heart monitor was the only sound. Beep, beep, beep. "I never meant for this to happen," she said. "You disappeared. Everyone said you were gone. Ethan, he was just there." I nodded. "And now he's still there," I said. "Wearing my gear. Sitting in my chair. Sleeping in my bed, I assume?" Her eyes welled again, not guilt. Just regret she'd been caught in a mess. She tried to reach for my hand. I pulled away. "You should go. James." "Go," I growled. And she did. She walked out of that room like she had every right to, like she tried. But we both knew the truth. She didn't bury me. She replaced me. And I was going to take everything back. After Maria left, the air in that hospital room thickened. She hadn't even tried to lie convincingly. Hadn't apologized, hadn't cried for me, only for the image she ruined. And Ethan? He hadn't even bothered to show. I should have been focused on healing. On rehab. On getting my body back. But all I could think about was how fast she'd made me disappear. Physical therapy started day 11. A pair of crutches. A therapist named Reed with zero patience for excuses. I liked him. "You got muscles," he said. "Let's use them." Pain became routine. A badge of effort. It felt better than silence. But the whispers, those were worse. Nurses talked behind clipboards. Techs looked down when they entered. I caught a rookie paramedic scrolling on his phone. The screen showed a Reddit thread titled, "Love Triangle at Ladder 11, Calder's Rookie Rebound." He noticed me noticing and bolted. I asked Reed, "Is that what they think?" He paused. "Honestly, they think she moved on. And that Ethan's a hero for stepping up." I let out a bitter laugh. Stepping on is more like it. He didn't laugh with me. A few days later, Chief Montrose visited. Suit instead of uniform. PR mode. How you holding up, son? I just looked at him. I wasn't his son. Never was. Good, I said flatly. Heard Ethan got promoted. Montrose cleared his throat. Temporarily. Someone had to lead. Optics are delicate right now. Optics. I repeated. Media loves this kind of story. Love lost, found again in the flames. It makes civilians feel connected to the job. I clenched my jaw. I didn't realize betrayal made good press. He smiled awkwardly. You're still a hero, James. But maybe keep a low profile while you recover. Let the dust settle. Dust doesn't settle in a fire, I said. It burns. He didn't respond to that. He just patted my leg, the one still in a brace, and said, come back when you're ready. But be a team player. Then he left. I sat there, teeth grinding, bones aching. I'd given this job everything. And they gave my locker, my badge, and my girl to a man who never bled for it. 2 days later, a gift basket arrived. No card. Just a cheap bottle of whiskey and a tin of cookies. The nurse said it was from the department. Inside, tucked under the bottle, was a folded firehouse group photo. Everyone was smiling. Ethan was in the middle. Maria stood beside him, hand on his chest. And my spot? Photoshopped out. I stared at it for hours. The building tried to kill me, but it failed. My team? My fiancée? They succeeded. They didn't wait for the funeral. They hosted the after-party. That night, I pulled myself from bed without crutches. The pain made me see stars. My chest felt like a knife was lodged in my ribs. But I stood. I limped to the mirror. Looked myself in the eye. You're not staying buried, I said. Not in rubble. Not in rumors. Not in revisionist history. I wasn't just going to return. I was going to resurrect and set the record on fire. When she walked into my apartment, our apartment, 2 weeks later, she had a key, a look of regret, and the nerve to act like we were still something real. I was back home now, moving like a man stitched together with wire. The building smelled like dust and disinfectant. My medals still hung above the mantel. Her perfume still haunted the sheets. But everything else? Charred beyond recognition. James, she said carefully, closing the door behind her. We need to talk. I didn't turn around. Just kept stirring my coffee with one hand while bracing myself on the counter with the other. You already said plenty, I said. On live TV. Her breath caught. That wasn't planned. I didn't want it to happen that way. Did you want it to happen at all? No answer. So I turned. Just tell me. When did it start? Was he comforting you after my funeral, or were you already planning the honeymoon? Her mouth dropped open. I wasn't planning anything, she shouted. You were gone. The building collapsed, the team said you were probably dead, I finished. So that gave you permission? She took a step closer. I was alone, James. Everyone else had someone. I didn't know what to do. You called the news station, I said sharply. You cried on their cameras. You kissed him like it was the end of a Nicholas Sparks movie. Then you wore my hoodie. You made a goddamn sequel. Tears welled up in her eyes. I wasn't moved. I loved you, she said. Loved, I echoed. Past tense. Like how they wrote about me. She crossed her arms, voice hardening. You think this is easy for me? You come back like some ghost expecting everything to go back to normal? I was mourning. Your dignity, I said coldly. You buried me with my own badge, then wore it to bed with him. She slapped me. Not hard, but enough to sting. I didn't flinch. You should leave, I said quietly. I didn't come to fight, she whispered. No. You came to justify your betrayal. Go tell it to someone who wasn't under 10 tons of steel when you sold me out. She stood there like she still had something else to say. But the silence did it for me. She left the key on the counter. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even close the door behind her. I limped into the bedroom. Opened the closet. Her side was already half empty. I picked up the last hoodie she'd left, mine, and threw it into the trash. Then I stared at myself in the mirror. Burned ribs. Bruised pride. Broken trust. But behind the pain, a spark. The next morning, I shaved the beard I grew in recovery. Put on my cleanest uniform. Walked into the firehouse with a cane in one hand and my badge in the other. Ethan was in my chair. Literally. Feet up on the desk, talking like he owned the place. When he saw me, his jaw tensed. Well, look who's back from the dead. I didn't smile. You're in my seat. He chuckled. You sure you're ready for this? Word is you're more PR problem than partner right now. Funny, I said. That's not the word I heard. I leaned in. But I can't wait to fix the narrative. Ethan frowned. What narrative? I smiled just enough to make him sweat. You'll see. I didn't come back to be welcomed. I came back to be seen. And trust me, they saw me. First day walking back into Station 11, I could feel the shift in the air like humidity before a storm. The boots stopped stomping. The chatter died down. Half the crew looked away. The other half stared at my chest, not at the scars but the badge. My badge. The one they had to dig out from under wreckage. The one Ethan wore now. Well used to wear. Captain Riley was the first to speak. Lieutenant Calder, he said, too formal. Good to see you upright. I nodded. You too. He scratched his neck. I trust you're aware that Lieutenant Ford. Acting lieutenant, I corrected. Riley hesitated. Yes, well, he's been holding the role until you were medically cleared. Administration wanted stability. Funny, I said. They define stability with betrayal now? That shut him up. I kept walking, eyes scanning every familiar corner that now felt foreign. My name had been scrubbed from the duty roster. My gear locker? Assigned to someone else. Rookie. Barely shaved. I found my old fire helmet, blacked and cracked, sitting on a shelf labeled retired equipment. They had already put me in the past tense. Ethan strutted up behind me like the hallway owed him. You're making things uncomfortable, he said, keeping his voice low. I'm not here for comfort. He smirked. You think walking back in after a few weeks on your back makes you relevant again? No, I said. But I know exactly what makes you irrelevant. He stiffened. I leaned close. Tell me something, Ethan. What color were the drapes in the Kinsley high-rise? He blinked. What? Floor 27. The unit I pulled the kid from. You were up there before me, right? What color were the drapes? He said nothing. I stepped back. That's what I thought. I made my case to the higher-ups the next day. Clean suit, crisp reports, incident logs, body cam requests. I wanted my title reinstated. They said I needed team support first. Translation, the crew had to trust me again. But how do you earn back trust from men who never looked for you? Worse, from those who cheered when someone else filled your boots? The first call came 3 days later. Warehouse fire. Small but ugly. I showed up in full gear. Some of the guys scoffed. Riley tried to bench me. I ignored him. Smoke was pouring from the side. Ethan went in with reins. I stayed outside listening. Watching. Counting seconds. Then I heard it. Calder, get your team inside now. Riley's voice barked. But I didn't move. I heard something else. Silence. Too much silence. No coughing. No footsteps. No comms. I grabbed my own mask and went in. Inside, Rains was struggling to drag out a body. Ethan, unconscious, limp, out cold from smoke. I took over. Hauled him out. Tossed him onto the gurney. Everyone watched me, the rogue lieutenant who disobeyed direct orders. But we all knew the truth. If I hadn't gone in, Ethan would be dead. And that rookie Rains? He wouldn't have come out either. After the rescue, the whispers turned. Calder saved him. He knew the signs. He still got it. But Ethan? He filed a report the next morning. Said I endangered the team. Said I went rogue. Said I disrespected protocol. And command? Command believed him. Because love triangles were messy. But paperwork? Paperwork was clean. The official report hit my desk like a slap to the face. Subject, Lieutenant James Calder. Infraction, unauthorized entry during live operation. Filed by Lieutenant Ethan Ford. I read it 3 times. Every sentence sounded like someone describing a ghost. Like I wasn't there, didn't think, didn't save anyone. He made it sound like I endangered Rains, like I was some unstable has been trying to play hero. What he didn't mention. That Rains radioed for help and no one answered. That Ethan had frozen. That I found the 2 of them half-conscious, lying under a steel beam, radio batteries dead, exit route blocked by collapse. What Ethan really didn't mention. The panic in his eyes before I yanked him out by the straps. I knew it wasn't just about me anymore. Ethan wasn't trying to protect the team. He was protecting his narrative. The one where he's the golden boy who picked up the pieces after I fell. The one where he took command because I couldn't. The one where he saved my fiancée from the unbearable pain of waiting. And the brass? They loved a clean story. A new poster boy. No mess. No baggage. But I wasn't built for silence. I requested the body cam footage from the warehouse fire. Admin dragged their feet. Said the cameras failed. Smoke interference, they claimed. Convenient. I pulled the tower dispatch audio instead. Every call logged. Every pause recorded. And there it was. Rains on radio were trapped. Need backup. Can't reach Ford. Calder, where are you? Command, Ford status. Ford, static, silence. Then my voice clear as glass. Calder, I'm going in. 2 men inside. They're not responding. Idia 1 minute. I clipped the audio. Sent it to internal review. Included my written report. Still nothing. That's when I got smart. I found Ella, one of the station's dispatchers. Quiet. Observant. She'd always respected me. You still log video feeds from helmet cams? I asked. She hesitated. We're supposed to delete after 30 days. Unless there's an incident. There was, I said. Ethan filed one. She looked at me. Then nodded. 2 days later, she dropped a USB into my coat pocket while we crossed in the hallway. No words. Just the weight of truth. I watched the footage in my apartment that night. The first 10 minutes were chaos. Smoke, shouting, flames licking concrete. Then it shifted. Ethan was standing still in the center of the room. Frozen. Rains yelling. Screaming. Ethan, move. Nothing. Rains ran toward the trapped civilian. Ethan turned, slow, confused, and walked straight into falling debris. He didn't trip. He panicked. He abandoned. The next morning I sent the footage, the audio, and my full report to the union. BCC'd the regional fire chief. Included timestamps, frame counts, heat readings. Then I waited. Didn't take long. Within 24 hours, Ethan was pulled into a private meeting. By day's end, his nameplate was removed from the lieutenant office door. By week's end, his status read, suspended pending investigation. And me? They asked me to meet with command again. This time I wore my badge. And my fireproof spine. When I walked into the conference room, the brass sat stiffer than usual. Captain Riley opened with, Lieutenant Calder, that was thorough. I'm a thorough guy, I said. He cleared his throat. We'd like to reinstate you as full lieutenant. Immediate command of a specialized urban rescue squad. Your own team. I looked around the table. Same faces who looked the other way when I was buried in rumor. Now they saw fire in my eyes and wanted to fan it. Make it official, I said. Outside the station I passed Ethan. He didn't look up. Just sat on the bench in street clothes, gripping a manila envelope like it was a lifeline. I didn't stop. Didn't gloat. But I did say, just loud enough for him to hear. Next time you wear a man's boots, make sure you're built to walk through fire. The day after Ethan was suspended, the air at Station 11 changed. Not out of loyalty, there hadn't been much of that left. But because power had shifted. The golden boy had fallen and everyone wanted to be on the right side of the fire now. Reinstated. Rearmed. Reborn. My new role? Commander of the Urban Rescue Elite Unit. Special missions. High-risk saves. No room for ego. And I made it clear, I didn't forget. Not the silence. Not the back-turning. Not the photo where they airbrushed me out. But I didn't come back for revenge. I came back for receipts. I had more than footage of a rescue gone wrong. I had texts, logs, witnesses, and one more USB. Maria's phone, which she'd left behind, stupidly, in my apartment weeks ago. I never opened it. Until now. Text threads between her and Ethan went back 3 months before the collapse. Ethan, you sure about this? Maria, he's always working. You're the one who's actually here. Ethan, he doesn't deserve you. Maria, let's just keep it quiet until the transfer goes through. Transfer? I scrolled deeper. Apparently, Ethan had requested a shift change, out of direct oversight, weeks before I proposed. He knew. She knew. Hell, they planned it. The fire didn't cause their affair. It delayed the reveal. I printed every thread, every screenshot, every deleted message the phone had auto-backed up. Then I contacted the department ethics office. Infidelity wasn't illegal. But fraternization on duty? Neglect during crisis response? False reporting? Those were grounds for termination with dishonor. The investigation widened. Ethan's record was picked apart. Suddenly, every rookie who'd kept their head down began whispering. One remembered Ethan delaying response times on purpose, claiming PR would look better if they didn't save the scene too fast. Another admitted he heard Maria in the bunk room during Ethan's overnight shifts. Everything came together. Like kerosene waiting on a match. Command pulled me in for a final interview. You understand? One of the brass said, this could go public. I stared at him. It should go public. You sure? It'll stain everyone involved. I nodded. Then let it stain them. The department issued a formal announcement the next week. Lieutenant Ethan Ford dishonorably discharged. Violation of code, conduct, and command ethics. Perpetrated an affair with a firefighter's fiancée while falsifying field reports and compromising emergency response standards. The press ran it with the same hunger they had when they called him a hero. This time, though, the headline was mine. Lieutenant Calder returns from collapse, exposes betrayal and cleans house. Maria? She lost her job too. Not because of love. Because of fraud. Turns out Ethan had been using his clearance to bump her online fundraiser. One labeled Help a Grieving Fiancé Heal. Grieving fiancé? She collected $22,000, which she spent on vacation photos that were still on her Instagram. She hadn't even set it to private. The donors filed a joint lawsuit. Her face hit the local news. Not as the crying girlfriend. As the grifter with a soft smile and expensive taste. When she came to the station, she didn't cry this time. She begged. Waited by my truck. Hair curled, makeup perfect. The same uniform she wore when she wanted something. James, she said, please just talk to me. I didn't answer. Cameras were already clicking behind me. She reached out to touch my arm. I stepped around her. Didn't flinch. Didn't pause. Didn't burn. Just said over my shoulder for everyone to hear. You kissed a coward. Now live with one. And I left her there. Alone. In the ashes she helped ignite. The last time I saw Ethan in uniform, he was being escorted out of Station 11 without his badge, without his helmet, and without the woman he sold his dignity for. No farewell. No salute. Just the squeak of boots on tile and the heavy click of a door closing behind him, like the final note of a funeral march. The firehouse didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They just watched. Guilty. Quiet. As if they'd all just realized what they allowed to happen. After his dismissal, I found a folded letter on my desk. No name. No return address. Inside it read, "You deserve better. We should have spoken up. We didn't. You still saved us anyway. For that, I'm sorry." It wasn't signed. Didn't need to be. Maria unraveled fast. Without Ethan to hide behind, the world turned cold. Her fundraiser scam made headlines across the city's most watched evening news segment. Firefighter's fiancé fakes grief for profit, exposed by the man she thought was dead. The story made it to national morning shows. Commentators debated morality. Reddit dissected the timeline. A podcast called Ashes of Trust featured me in a 3-part series. And Maria? She made her account private, then deleted it, then reactivated it to post a black square and a caption that read, "Everyone makes mistakes. Stop bullying me." The comments lit her up like gasoline. One morning I stopped at the old cafe near the station, place we used to go together. Maria was there. Hair in a bun. No makeup. Hoodie too big for her. No cameras this time. She was sitting alone, staring into a mug like it held answers. I walked in. Ordered my coffee. She looked up. Froze. Then whispered, "James?" I didn't sit. Didn't speak. I waited. She stood slowly. "You've made your point. I lost everything." "No," I said. "You gave it away." Tears rose. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. "You kissed him before I was even declared dead. That's not fair." "It's honest." She took a breath. "I thought you died. I thought I lost you." I leaned in. Just enough to kill whatever hope flickered behind her eyes. "You never lost me, Maria. You left me." Then I stepped back and walked out, again. This time for good. That week, I stood on the second floor of the new Rescue Division HQ. Fresh paint. New lockers. My name stenciled above an office door. One of the new recruits saluted me as I passed. "Morning, Lieutenant." I nodded. "Ready to walk through fire today?" He grinned. "Always." That was the difference. These men didn't follow me because I looked good on camera. They followed me because I survived hell and carried others out of it. I held a ceremony 2 days later. No press. No speeches. Just silence and flame. We burned the old duty roster. The ones that failed us. We lit a small controlled blaze in the training zone. Symbolic, they said. I watched the fire crackle and spit. And with it, the last of her memory burned. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. You can't rebuild with ashes still in your lungs. Ethan? Gone. Maria? Forgotten. Me? I was just getting started. 6 months later, the name Lieutenant James Calder no longer needed an asterisk beside it. I wasn't the man who got cheated on. Wasn't the guy they almost buried. I was the one who walked through fire and came out forged. The Urban Rescue Elite Unit became my second heartbeat. 5 hand-picked firefighters. No politics. No press junkies. Just grit, scars, and steel nerves. We ran vertical rescues, chemical spills, collapsed tunnels, the jobs nobody wanted. And we did it without fanfare. Because we weren't trying to be heroes anymore. We were trying to matter. The new crew called me sir, out of respect. But when the helmet came on, I was just Calder. First in, last out. Always. We saved a little girl from a parking structure collapse in June. Pulled 3 workers out of a grain silo before it swallowed them whole in July. By August, we had our own name stitched into department history. The Ashline Unit. Named after the edge of every burn. Where everything either survives or doesn't. One night, after a long call, the youngest guy, Martinez, asked me something. Lieutenant, if you could go back, would you still run into that building? I didn't even pause. In a heartbeat. He nodded slowly. Even after everything? That building tried to kill me, I said. She tried to bury me. He tried to replace me. Then I looked him in the eye. But fire taught me something none of them ever could, how to see what's worth saving. Maria never tried to contact me again. She disappeared into civilian life, moving out of the city. Her name faded like smoke. A rumor. A cautionary tale. Ethan? Last I heard, he tried applying to departments out west. But fire has a long memory. And the Brotherhood? Even longer. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because they didn't deserve it, they did. But because anger is a second job, and I was already working overtime saving lives that wanted saving. I had new weight in my chest now, not grief. Pride. Pride in the men I led. Pride in the scars I wore. Pride in the silence I kept when I could have burned them all with words. On the anniversary of the collapse, I stood alone at Ground 27. The site had been rebuilt into a memorial garden. No marble. No flags. Just scorched stone and a plaque with our unit's names carved into it. Mine was at the top. I touched the edge of it. Ran my fingers over the letters. Lieutenant James Calder. Survivor. Leader. Still standing. A young reporter tried to approach that day. Lieutenant Calder, can I get a quote about redemption? I smiled. Redemption is for people who did something wrong. Then I turned, climbed back into the rescue truck and drove toward the next call. Because that's the thing about fire. It doesn't care who you were. Only who you are when it comes. And when it came for me, I didn't flinch. I didn't beg. I didn't break. I proposed to a woman who said yes. Then I ran into a collapsing building. Came out alive. Just in time to watch her kiss another man. But it wasn't the fire that betrayed me. It was them. And now, they're gone. I'm still here. Still burning. But this time, I light the match. Some men are broken by fire. Some are forged by it. Me. I became it. Not the blaze that consumes everything in rage, no. But the kind that burns just enough to leave a mark. A reminder that I was here. There's something sacred about surviving what was meant to end you. Something cold, quiet, and relentless. People talk about closure like it's a door that gets gently shut. Mine slammed, locked, and then burned to ash. And still, I walked away. They called me the fallen hero. The lucky one. The ghost who came back wrong. But I wasn't lucky. I earned my return. With cracked ribs. With silence. With every second I resisted becoming like them. Because vengeance isn't about screaming the truth from rooftops. Sometimes it's just standing taller in the room they hoped you'd never walk into again. They used my name in headlines. Tried to erase me with their betrayal. Thought their kiss could overwrite my sacrifice. But ink fades. Reputation fades. Real stories? They don't get rewritten. They get retold by the ones who lived them. Let them remember me not as the man who was cheated on. Not as the one who went down in a building. Let them remember me as the man who rose without asking permission. Who returned not to beg, but to build. So if you ever feel buried by lies, by loss, by fire, listen closely. You don't have to dig out fast. You just have to breathe. Breathe long enough to remember who you are. Then stand. Even if it hurts. Even if they're watching. Even if they've already moved on. Because the world loves a resurrection story. And brother, mine's just beginning. I was Lieutenant James Calder. Once burned. Never broken. Now, untouchable. And to the next person who thinks they can replace me, I've got one word for them. Try.